Thanks also to all the Irish farmers, growers and fishermen who are producing foods of the highest possible standards, foods and ingredients that we're using in these recipes. Welcome back to my series of cookery classes. Today we've got paella, a very traditional Spanish dish. I've had it for years and years and years, but I have to admit, I think mine's better than what you get in Spain. I tend to find very often, particularly in commercial restaurants, where they have a lot of tourists, it tends to be quite bland. So I've got a bit of a kick to these. I've got some turmeric, I've got some chilli powder, I've got some beautiful tabasco, and I've also got some lovely saffron here. Now, saffron can tend to be quite expensive. I was in Istanbul about 15 years ago and I bought a kilo, so it lasted me for a little while. But it's got this beautiful aromatic, it's kind of like a musty smell, but it's got a very distinctive flavor. So I'm going to put in probably about ½ teaspoon here, infusing in my fish stock. Now, I have got here a traditional paella dish. I'm using rapeseed oil, Irish rapeseed oil in fact, and I am going to coat my rice. So I'm just using a basmati rice here. So straight in there, probably about, that'll be enough for about 4 people. I'm going to bring my temperature up. And this is going to be a bit of a ready, steady cook. So at the same time, I'm going to crisp up my veg. So I'm going to use, and I don't like cooking the vegetables in the paella. Main reason being is that they get very, very soft. I like a bit of a bite, a bit of a crunch, a bit of texture. So I can feel that popping away. The rice is popping away there. So what I'm going to add into this, I've got some cayenne pepper. I've got some chili powder. I've got some turmeric, and that gives it lovely color. And I'm going to add a little bit of Tabasco sauce here as well. In we go there. And the important thing here is to get the flavors going. So again, a lot of heat, strong heat on that. And it's important to cook out the spices beforehand. What some people do from time to time is they'll add a bit of spice towards the end before the serving up, but it won't cook out. Now, as I'm talking, I'm actually getting that in the back of my throat, so I can get the flavors. I can sense the flavors. I know those flavors are going to work really well. I'm going to turn the temperature down a little bit. As you can see, I've got this on very high heat. I'm going to take a swig of water because I'm getting that in the back of the throat. And once again, with all of my cooking, with all of my instruction and recipe ideas, have as much prepped in advance as possible. So we have the fish stock here, which is infusing with the saffron. And I'm going to add a little bit of pepper, a little bit of salt, straight in there with the salt, and I'm going to turn my temperature back up again. So I'm going to let that just cook out at a fairly high temperature. I've got about 1.5 liters of stock. So what you do is you keep adding a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more until everything is cooked off. Now you can see that bubbling away, and I can get the beautiful flavors and smells. In this frying pan here, I'm going to put a little bit more of my rapeseed oil. And as always, don't use olive oil for this kind of cooking because olive oil burns at very low temperatures. Rapeseed oil has a higher heat threshold, as does sunflower or vegetable oil. Into this, I'm going to add my veg. So we have some garlic, I have some red peppers, green peppers, and I've got some onion in there as well. So straight in there. Now, that is just divine. Now the thing with the paella, the really important thing to do is once you've got those flavors filtering through the rice, you're going to let that sit. You're not going to disturb it. You want a kind of a crust at the base of that when you go to serve up. And I'm then going to finish that off with a lovely selection of fish. So I've got some monkfish, I've got some haddock, I've got some pre-cooked octopus, I've got some double-bay prawns, and I've got some Norwegian prawns here as well, and I've got some lovely squid. So again, just get those flavors going a little bit. I'm going to season those ever so slightly as well. A little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and a little bit more of my rapeseed oil in there as well. So again, just get those flavors going. I want to cook it off probably to about 80% of what you'd expect to eat, you know, the veg at. I don't want it to be overdone. I don't want it to be underdone. I just want it to be al dente, nice and crunchy. So I'm going to turn the heat down here. I'm going to turn the heat up here. And then once that starts to boil away, I'm going to add in my, my fish. So we'll come back to you in about 5 minutes time, once that's cooked out, and then we'll start and we'll finish the dish off again. Okay, so we're back here now. The rice is cooked out. It's beautiful. I don't want to overdo it either. And you can cheat a little bit as well. What I did is I added in, I supplemented it with some pilau rice, which is the microwavable rice as well, and that bulks it up a little bit. So don't feel you're cheating because it does work rather well. So the final stage of this, and I've checked the flavor as well. The flavor is amazing, and I don't need to adjust that at all. There's enough salt, there's enough pepper, there's enough turmeric, chilli, and I think there's nice stock in there. So I've got the fish stock. I put a little bit of chicken stock in there as well, and it works. It's really, really good. So the next stage, in we go with our veg, which is cooked. It's al dente, and that'll give it a nice bit of color. It'll give it a nice bit of crunch. So straight in there. Leave that to one side. And then the final piece de resistance, I'm going to get my surgical gloves. I always like to have a few of these in the kitchen when handling fish, particularly when handling fish and particularly when chopping chili peppers, because chili peppers, if you have a cut or a bruise on your finger, it gets in under that and it's quite uncomfortable. So what we have here, I've got a seafood mix. So we've got some cod, we've got some monkfish, I've got some trout, I've got some smoked haddock. I have some lovely squid rings in there as well. I'm going to turn that temperature up a little bit. I've got some beautiful prawns in here, and I also have my pre-cooked octopus. Now the thing with octopus, it's quite a difficult thing to cook well, so this was cooked in advance, and I'm just going to have it there for garnish and a bit more flavor. So in we go with that. And here we go. Oh, beautiful. I love octopus. I absolutely love it. I adore it. And I'm going to finish these off with some lovely Dublin Bay prawns. And finally, I have some mussels. Now, we've pre-cooked the mussels. So on we go there with the mussels. And this is just the most amazing seafood feast. I'm going to add a little bit more stock over the top of that, like so. I'm going to turn the heat up, and I'm going to come back to this in about 5 minutes, and then we'll be able to serve up straight away. And we are now back to our wonderfully cooked paella. That was about 5 to 7 minutes cooking. We've got our beautiful prawns, we've got our squid, we've got our octopus, beautiful flavor. I'm going to finish this off here with a little bit of fresh dill. Dill with seafood is just immense, it's just so good. And I have got some lime, segments of lime, some lemons, and the piece de la resistance here. Richard, prop, please. Hey! We've got our crusty bread. So what I would suggest is serve that up in the middle of the table for your guests, and they can help themselves. And that, mama, is a feast. I love it.